we have a lot to talk about, Dan. Are you ready?
In only 8 minutes.
Yeah, we can go over. I'm just kidding. I just put them into a panic. So to start off with, I want to just say something about Dan. He's an incredible leader, both within his company and this community. He believes in giving back first. He's a strong advocate for entrepreneurship and inspiring people to do their best. And you've proven yourself, obviously. I don't know how many people that we all know that were part of 3 startups, 3 unicorns, 3 decacorns, 3 publicly traded companies. And so it is a real honor to be here with you. You're a bold leader. I know you have a mantra related to what happens when you fail. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, you often hear when people talk about their entrepreneurial journeys, the importance of failing. In some ways, I think that's a little bit twisted. I think the most important thing is to do a certain thing in sequence and do it very quickly, and that is to fail, to assess, to fix, and then repeat that, and repeat it at an ever-accelerating pace. It sounds basic. It sounds something that anyone would do, but there's one big flaw in it, and that is when you want to fail fast, that means you have to put yourself out there. It means you have to expose yourself. It means you have to deal with the ramifications of failure, which is could be embarrassment, it could be ridicule. But if you learn how to do that, and I think most successful entrepreneurs, just by nature, learn how to do that very early on, their pace of learning, their pace of innovating gets so much faster than people who aren't willing to put themselves out there. So, fail fast, learn from it, and fix it, and keep getting better at that cycle.
It's a great mantra, and it is part of the way I believe that through your actions and your work, you mentor individuals looking to get into starting a company and help them grow their companies. So with that said, would you share a little bit about some of the things that you're working on to further give back to the community and support our ecosystem?
Yeah, and I actually want to start, especially in the context of the previous talk, I want to start with kind of the important role that Zayo plays as a for-profit provider of bandwidth, a for-profit builder and developer of infrastructure. So we all know how important bandwidth is in the world we live in today, and the question is, how do we make that bandwidth more available to more people? That's what Zayo does for a living, and that's what companies like Zayo do. And yes, we have a for-profit motive, but every quarter we spend close to $200 million of capital, mostly building out either fiber networks or data center infrastructure. And when we do that, we spur innovation. In fact, if you look at what our mission is, the mission is all defined around accelerating our customers' capabilities to really make the world a better place, to bring freedom and prosperity to the world. And that's because our customers have very recognizable names, whether it's the Amazons, Apples, your West Coast style companies who we all think of relative to innovation, or it's WeWorks, who we heard earlier is innovating, or UC Health, where we use our fiber to connect up all their hospitals and their data center that used to be on Anschutz campus is now within our data center. We also do a ton with wireless carriers, and what we do for them is we provide fiber infrastructure that allows them to put more cell sites out there called small cells that then bring the internet closer to communities at higher speeds. So while a lot of government talk is about how do we kind of, in some circles, how do we push aside these for-profit companies? While that talk's taking place, we're spending money every day building out infrastructure that improves the world that we all live in, and we're proud of that. So the first way we contribute is by just the nature and mission of Zayo itself, but I also view that, that companies like Zayo have both an opportunity and a responsibility to contribute more broadly to kind of society, and in our case, our passion is around the entrepreneurial ecosystem and how to bring more people into it and allow others to innovate, not just within or around Zayo, but just in general. So we get involved both via Zayo, between my wife Cindy and myself, and in helping to support a wide range of entrepreneurial causes.
And it's really exciting. I'm glad you brought up the point about the power of the private sector to drive that innovation and really expand the reach in terms of access. When you look at what you're doing and some of the amazing brands that are your clients and customers, what are you hearing from them in terms of some of the trends? Where do you think some of these trends will take us? What can we expect to see in the coming years?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, my biggest concern right now personally is that I'm not going to be around to see all the changes that are beginning right now. I mean, the excitement around blockchain, quantum computing, quantum teleportation, smart cars, autonomous vehicles, including ones that hover over us in the air. I mean, the world we're going to live in, pretty much every 5-year block from this point forward is going to be dramatically different than the 5 years prior to it. And the nice thing for the business we're in, almost all that innovation involves data, and almost all of it involves bandwidth. So we, in sometimes a small way, sometimes in a bigger way, touch a ton of this innovation. And even things like gaming and healthcare, fintech, are having such a positive impact across the world, and so much as enabled by bandwidth.
So if we look at the state of Colorado, and if we look at Denver, knowing these trends, knowing what's coming, what do we need to do to maintain our position as a leader in communications infrastructure, and what do we need to do to think about how we further enhance that position?
Yeah, so Silicon Valley is known as the startup capital of the world. Big deal. We have an opportunity to be the scale-up capital of the world. In fact, there's a lot of inroads we in the Front Range are already making along the lines. You see more and more companies who started elsewhere, who are outgrowing the infrastructure and the talent in their communities, and they're looking at the Front Range and say, boy, we could scale up our businesses here. With that comes talent, because people from outside the state know what a great environment we have here, so they move in. But also, we have the opportunity to develop more of our internal talent. And I think opportunity-wise and responsibility-wise, how do we bring more of our kind of community into the tech and entrepreneurial ecosystem by taking a long-term view and helping to enable opportunities, enable kind of a learning path where more and more kids get exposed to what it means to be part of an innovative society. So I think we just have all kinds of opportunity in the state that is so unique to us and so hard for most other geographies to even aspire to replicate.
What would you warn us about? These are the gaps, or these are the spaces we need to be acutely aware of as we move forward. Is it back to talent? Are there other things?
Yeah, I'll come back to talent, because that's a big one. And you guys have talked a lot about infrastructure, so I'll mostly pass on that. But I will talk about one of the things that makes Colorado great is the collaboration that takes place between the public sector and the private sector, led by both the next guest as well as one of the earlier guests, the mayor and the governor, and just the nature of what Colorado is. We're both a red state and a blue state, and we collaborate together. I think set a great example. So I think we have to continue to build upon that collaboration. We have to find ways for the private sector, the public sector, and leaders across the community to lean into one another and help make the state a better place.
Thanks, Dan. You have changed the face of Colorado in terms of the companies that you've built, and you've inspired us to be bold. And I think that that's one of the messages we hope to take with us today, is that we need to think big, and scaling big is part of that. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think, so yeah, there is one other thing. So we were at the Aspen Ideas Fest the last few days, and we sat in several sessions. I think what you guys did here today, by getting together in the environment you're in, the energy, the true wanting to collaborate specifically around Colorado, was probably as valuable of a session as any of those sessions that were had in Aspen. So I commend both the organizers and everyone participating for being here and doing what you're trying to do.
Great. Thank you for your leadership.